Oh, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. The technical details sometimes flummox Pedro and I. This morning was one of them. Bringing a new guest on today. And that sorted itself out. And then my system decided to not play ball. Although I must say, we're all familiar with that crash I get every now and then. But that problem is gone. And we just have a few little noodling ones this morning. But anyway, let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you're coming to us from. I hope you're having a great day or a great evening. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking, here in the digital media world. So glad to be hosting the next... Hold on. Yep, all right, we're good. Sorry. Thought we were having another crash. So glad to be hosting another episode of DYOR Live here on the DYOR Media Network. As always, I'd like to introduce my guest host of the day. I'm just getting all screwed up today. As always, I'd like to bring my co-host, Pedro Garcia, in the house. Pedro, what's happening, baby?
Yo, what's up? Hey, how's everybody doing? I'm glad everybody's doing well. What's up? How you doing, brother?
Oh, man. We ran the show a half hour late today because I didn't have my act together here this morning. I thought I did, but then all of a sudden weird stuff started happening. Our guest had weird stuff going on with his setup, and I think the interwebs gremlins just took over today and then had their way with us. I think that's it. But anyway, we got a good show for you today, ladies and gentlemen. As I may have seen, we've got the team from Bitcoin on Base here today, a project that Pedro has been following a lot, and he's seemingly made inroads with the team there. And their leader Brian said, "Yeah, I'll come on your show," and hopefully he soon doesn't regret that. But anyway, thanks to everybody that's already here. I'm not sure my social comment machine is going. Oh yeah, we got.
Is it?
We got it. We got Swedish Sensimilia in the house for BTBC. We got John Deere. Vote for Pedro here. John Deere, he must be coming to us from the Quad Cities there. That's for sure. Kimchi Man, thank you for joining us, Kimchi Man.
Ryan's in the house.
As always, we got Crypto Mike in the house coming to us from Canada. Oh, Canada. Good to see Ryan Romantic. Sounds like the Romantics band. Crypto King, Bitcoin on Base, Blue Standard. And I've got blue comments up today, so there you go.
What's up? There you go.
And I missed a bunch of the earlier comments because my comment machine was not working. And for all of you watching today, we're primarily broadcasting on YouTube, but we're also on X. So for those of you that desire that platform, there is a comment section. You can go and join the party over there as well. Yes. But the main thing happens here on YouTube. Pedro, what is going on in Bitcoin?
That is a great question. So we've talked about this already. So we saw a little bounce off this area on the weekly chart. I pointed out, and we saw it kind of push up off of it, and now coming back down. We were talking about this yesterday, so I expect us to come back down and see some type of some bounce off of this 64,008 to about 63,399. We're already starting to see even pre for it. Before it gets to and this is the part that I always get in, this is where we get in trouble, right? Is that when we sit in between moving averages, where we have a moving average above us, a moving average below us, it's always a little bit difficult. We're putting in some bigger seller wicks up in these levels. So to me, it screams to me that it's probably going to be coming down to at least 64,000. And again, I'm for the long, so this would be kind of the same place I'd put my target in. We came back. We retested that 8, and now we're probably going to see it continue down here. So first target would be that 64. Second or third target would be somewhere around that 58,000-ish. This would be the third target. Second target would be that 61,000 area as well, which is set at the 200 period moving average. So that's it on a daily standpoint. On the weekly, we still look pretty much the same thing. Right now, it's kind of going sideways. But it's going to be really interesting to see how today they're talking about the Fed is talking, whether they're going to lower, raise, or keep the rates the way they're sitting at.
Should be interesting, Pedro. Should be interesting.
It is going to be very interesting. And so, go ahead.
I was going to say there's institutional muscle behind there wanting them to lower rates to make things sound good for an election. That's for sure. Yeah. And even though we know the Fed's independent, but still,
you got to keep a job. Right.
And Jerome Powell's on the other day talking about how much he loves being the chair or the head dude, whatever it is. And oddly enough, he's the first head of the Fed that's not an economist. He's got plenty of academia behind him, but he's by trade, he's not an economist. And so he said, I've actually learned a lot on this job. And I was like, ooh, it's not a job you want to learn on. But anyway, he's learned a lot, and he's doing, except for the government directing him to print a lot more money. I think he's doing an okay job, personally. But Pedro, what are the markets telling? The markets are the real truth tellers. What are the markets? The bond markets are always giving away how the Fed's doing and stuff like that.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about this, because I haven't really talked about this much lately, but as we can sit there and see that we've been watching the 30-year yield, which is the opposite of the bond. So when the bonds go up, the yields go down. When the yields go up, the bonds go down. So we've seen a sell-off. We've either consolidated, as you can see right here, and I'll point this out here real quick. Boom, right there, and then we have a nice little. Where is it at? Nice little descending.
Which chart
there.
Do you have going up there?
This is a 30-year yield.
But U.S. Treasury.
Yeah. So we talked about this demand area here on the weekly coming back down and testing this. We talked about, and you can see over the past few weeks that it's been coming back down. We've been finding some support, but today I think what they're going to do is I think either going to keep rates steady or potentially dropping them, simply because what we're seeing in the actual chart, and you can see that we've got some buyers down at these lower levels. So if we start to see rates come back down to the 4.8, and this is the 30-year yield here, I could see us then seeing a little bounce. And you can see how the traders have definitely been trading a lot of this as we're sitting there watching this. So, and then when we jump, but we still, right now, we're currently having a bear steepener. Not bear, a bull steepener right now, which basically means that the higher yield is coming up faster than the lower yield of the 2-year, which basically means we're kind of sitting even, which means we're potentially coming up to a catastrophe in the economy, like realistically. So right now, we're kind of seeing some give and take stuff kind of going on right now. Long story short, if we keep having a world employment issue and America keeps stopping, because we're slowing down buying, which basically, and the reason why is credit wise, we're maxed out, most Americans. From an actual job standpoint, most of Americans' jobs are being retracted and pulled away. Instead of getting 40 hours, they're getting 38, 36, 32. A lot of the part-time workers and many of like Walmart and other places like that, in the gig economy as well, is slowing down. Uber is slowing down. Not a lot of people are taking Uber. So there's all these side hustles that have used to actually boost the economy, and also the current administration claiming that there were jobs weren't necessarily, they're kind of dying down now. So it's really interesting to see as we move forward what it's going to look like. I pray that I'm wrong, but because of that, I'm waiting. And I'm gonna bring the S&P 500 here. So we saw a push up in the S&P 500 this past week, dropped down, came back up. Typically, when I see something like that, what's the biggest thing I talk about? Where are the wicks, right? We see more supply wicks than demand wicks, and we had a small demand wick today. So I do expect to see either hold or particularly based off of this, dropping rates, because they're pushing it up to drop it down. Now, raising rates. But I don't think Jerome Powell's going to raise rates based on he likes the job. So I think they're going to either be holding it or lowering it just a little. So we'll see what happens here. But it's going to be real interesting. I know I just gave some conflicting ideas there, but it's just what I'm looking on the charts and what's actually happening, right? Like, how are the traders positioning for this? So that's in a nutshell.
All right.
And
Pedro.
And they're bringing up, as well, I forgot to mention, today at 2 o'clock, which is within 50 minutes or 48 minutes, we are going to be releasing, Jerome Powell is going to be releasing the numbers that, are his plan for rates here coming here soon. So real interesting. Okay, that's in a nutshell.
Pedro, before we bring in our guest of the day here, Brian from the Bitcoin on Base, I'm going to reset one of my little programs here. So if you talk a little bit more about what's going on in the market. In fact, I've got Brian, mic should be activated. Brian, I can't bring you up on the camera until I reset my thing, but are you there? Are you there? Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yes,
Brian Johnson from Bitcoin on Base here as a guest. And while Pedro does the introduction with him, I'm going to reset the old broadcast software here. So hang on for a second.
Excellent.
But you guys can
So how you
talk, and I'll
doing?
just do that behind the scenes.
So how you doing, man? As you guys all know, Brian is the lead developer for Bitcoin on Base. He basically took it over and just has been killing it. He has great leadership skills, and one of the things he's been doing is really pushing it hard. And he's got a lot of support from his community. In addition to that, he's got great support from his staff that he works with, which is huge amount, because you can have great support from your community, but if your staff don't like you, then you get some trying times. So that's a big deal. Go ahead and bring it in, my friend. How you doing?
Doing very well. Thank you for having me. A little bit of clarification in terms of like technical background. I'm not the developer of like the project, the contract. This is in a sense a CTO. So the contract's renounced, the LP is burned, and there was also a token burn. So fortunately, in terms of like the technical infrastructure of the project, that's already solidified and forever. So I don't have to work on that end. I'm really just developing, I think, the necessary relationships and building out our leadership team for the sustainability of our long-term project goals.
Yes. I apologize. I mean, he's the one who's really building the community and really kind of getting it running. And I personally think that's really the head develop. That's the real person that's I think most influential in any type, besides the money backing. That is, that's super important. Now, if you don't mind me asking you real quick, what really kind of got you into this state, and what are your thoughts on kind of like where you're trying to go? Like, what are you trying to fully do?
So my background is in real estate finance. I worked with a private lender called Genesis Capital back in 2016 to 2018. And midway through that project, I became the director of operations for their major accounts division and expanded that space pretty dramatically to the point where Goldman Sachs came in and acquired the entity. And basically had to go through a rehiring process, my whole team, the entire company, and all get our real estate licenses, because Goldman Sachs is a very, high in compliance requirements. And in the time I was there, I closed $1.1 billion in total loan volume. My portfolio was in the, a few $billion of real estate assets. And I resigned the position in 2018 just because, starting out as a private lending institution and then getting migrated into that really extreme corporate status with Goldman Sachs, it didn't sit well with my my value system. And as a director of operations, I was then needing to delegate all those new protocols to my team. It just didn't make sense for our business model. With that, I merged directly into crypto after the resignation from Goldman. and was basically a Bitcoin maxi from that time till I'd say a few months ago. And this project really caught my eye because it's like the second chance at Bitcoin. You know, Base Chain with Coinbase's marketing initiative to bring this next billion users on chain. There's so much new money that's going to enter the space, and the way that they're building out Base, this layer 2 solution on Ethereum, it allows for this enterprise activation, these merchants to really come on chain simply through all the mechanisms that are being built by Coinbase. They've just partnered with Stripe, one of the major merchant processing systems, of course. And beyond that, you know, we just had an event in San Francisco. Is that music?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to feed that through you. I cut it off there.
Okay. We just had an event at the Howard in San Francisco. They're actually putting on a bigger event in August called On-Chain Summit in collaboration with Coinbase. But this first one allowed for folks to come in, you scan a QR code, it immediately opens your Coinbase wallet or prompts you to download the Coinbase wallet. With that, the NFT drops. You go to the bar. We had free food and drinks for the entire community that came through. But, you know, scanning these QR codes and integrating with and communicating with this NFT, giving you, you know, the free drinks at the bar and an automatic airdrop of our tokens. Like, all this technology is being built by Coinbase, and it's radically, I think, shifting this archaic banking system that we're accustomed to, sitting in lines for, you know, a length of time, any amount of time to wait for your own money, I think is ridiculous. When we have the technology at our disposal currently to just move things on chain. So we want to be a part of that. Bitcoin on Base is building out a team of people in all walks, in traditional finance, traditional, you know, corporate structure, and moving all that talent on chain and creating this avenue for a value add for enterprise activation, which I think is cool.
So I absolutely love that. I actually absolutely love that. We have one of our guys who actually is out in San Francisco Bay Area, and he actually has a car dealership, and he's literally said, "I need this tech for my dealer. I'll take crypto for her car," and I would love, I mean, even connect. He was one of the ones I was actually trying to send out to your San Francisco meetup. I was trying to get him, but I missed his comment too late, so I don't think he was able to even make it. But yeah, but the reality is he wants to know how to do it and set things up, because I mean, we all understand that with the strengthening of the dollar, it can hurt the world, and the weakening of the dollar hurts America with the current system and how certain things are set up. Now, whether this takes 2 or 3 years, which I highly doubt, or maybe 30 or 40 years, which is more likely what might happen, right? As the changing of the guard. But in all reality, having a secondary system that is in place in case something happens, like Bitcoin, or a form of cryptocurrency that can transact between each other, i.e. being self-governed, is something that needs to happen. But it's like you said, the interoperability issues that we have with TriFi and DeFi is not, it's just, it hurts, right? It literally just hurts for business right now. So I think it's one of those things that seeing what they're doing and how you're coming along with your project is substantial for me, at least what I see.
Absolutely. I mean, outside of what's happening on Base with Coinbase's initiatives, we've already seen the advent of the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, and allowing for these massive institutions to start taking part in this new world of money. This is, of course, going to bleed into nation state adoption, and that's already happening in El Salvador. Bitcoin as the contender. You could just see where this is going. People are waking up to the fact that the existing monetary system, which is a fractional banking system, fractional reserve banking system, it's set up to extract value from the community, from the public. And crypto, in its simplistic onboarding that's occurring now with Coinbase's smart wallet, the fraction of a penny cost to move money, any amount of money on Base, and having that occur instantaneously, removing these barriers for entry, all of it just makes total sense that it'll be a very seamless rollout in adoption. And I think that Bitcoin is it's obviously the most recognizable crypto asset in existence. To have the narrative and the value system occur in a low market cap, community driven program on Base already. Just yesterday, I personally onboarded a corporate entity. They brought in $100,000 and we were able to acquire, I believe, 240,000. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
I just messed up the video feed doing something else, but you're on.
I believe we acquired around 240,000 tokens for that entity. And I'm just looking at my notes here, 244,000. It's about 1.6% of the supply in a single entry. We are working with our group of whales, these early adopters, to have a good sense of supply control early on. What this will do for us as we, have this massive trajectory in market capitalization is dampen that volatility as we move up. And in building up this economy, this new ecosystem on Base, we want to have, that sort of comfort. People can go to bed at night not seeing massive movements in their asset value.
I think one of those that will be nice. Can I play devil's advocate real quick about
Please.
the market here? So I was listening to Bloomberg today, and they were talking about they really started kind of just talking about cryptocurrency, DeFi, CeFi. They actually use correct terms. It's actually really impressive to actually listen to them. Because it's like, all we've seen a lot of times with most of these outlets is just people who really don't know what they're talking about, trying to sound like they know what they're talking about. And sometimes I'm that guy as well. So regarding certain things, so I don't discredit them. Okay. So, but in the back end though, one of the things that they do bring up is that a lot of these guys talk about the emerging markets of crypto or the emerging market of crypto, but it's more or less more like commodities versus actual real utilities that can be used as transactioning of fees as a currency. So what do you say to that, especially when it comes to, Franklin and Templeton talking about the SOL ETF versus it being used as a actual, a system to transact, real currency or use. And a lot of times they do talk about, in addition to that, more of like, well, you can take a loan against this and creating the ability for there's already initial value. So let's take it and use it as a loan system versus an actual like currency system.
Right. Well, I think there's going to be a few different buckets where the varying financial needs that would be attributable or mirroring that of traditional finance can be had in crypto. You have Bitcoin, that is this massive store of value that nation state adoption can really sink their teeth into just because of its, there's nothing else that is as decentralized and as impenetrable as Bitcoin. It's forever. And so, as a strategic reserve asset for nation state adoption, it makes a lot of sense. It's like digital gold, as it's spoken about by the likes of Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, $11 trillion, I think, under management.
That we know.
In terms of like a means of
just
exchange.
Just a little bit amount of money there.
Just a little. Means of exchange, this is where Coinbase comes in. I think you have their chart up. They're a publicly traded company. They're the largest crypto institution now in existence. They're holding as custody 90%, I believe, of all the Bitcoin ETF holdings. They're also the custodian for the new Ethereum ETFs, and I think something like the similar 90% range of that holding. So they're looked to from regulators and large institutions as the go-to for institutional adoption. because of that footing that they have in the space, for them to create their own network on Ethereum, this base chain. They like to just call it base, scratch the chain part. But they're building this new global economy on base. Yeah. And the systems that they've put in terms of like simplistic integration with existing Web 1 payment processing systems, and having that application be really seamless for folks to onboard on chain. They're less than a penny, transaction cost, and the instantaneous movement of value on their chain makes all of those questions and objections by the people you mentioned become irrelevant, erroneous. It's the new technology that they're not really recognizing yet as fueling that onboarding process. And you just look at Coinbase's website or Base's tweets or Jesse Pollack's constant mentions of this. It's cheap, fast, and easy to onboard. And they're building every single day. Every single day they have some new development, some new partnership where they keep expanding the network. So yeah, this is just, I think, under the radar. And that's why I think our project specifically is so incredible. I'll give you a quick hint. We just basically partnered with a company called Evergreen Fund. This is a rehab facility for high net worth individuals in Bel Air, California. It's a compound of 4 homes and a track up in the hills. They do not just work with wealthy people. They use that extra money that comes in from those subscriptions to provide scholarships for folks who can't afford that treatment. But basically they focus on addiction treatment and mental health ailments. There's the detox facility in House 1. That's a HIPAA regulated facility, a treatment center. And then they merge those folks into a co-living space in the additional 3 homes. They're also expanding that. And so sort of a co-living space where. And
this is on Base. Like Base is developing, or is this?
This is this is an existing entity that has this entire operation, and we've just partnered with them. And the real beauty in it is that they've become our fiscal sponsor. We're turning Bitcoin on Base into a nonprofit foundation, and the lead into that to have immediate access to tax deductible donations is through that fiscal sponsorship, because it takes about 3 to 6 months for a tax exemption and a 501c3 to be approved. As we launch the entity, Bitcoin on Base Foundation, we'll have immediate ability to start raising funds for the causes that we're focused on. So what that looks like for crypto people is bringing awareness to gambling addiction. I think this is super important. It's not really talked about too much. People aping into projects that in a lot of instances are just scams that will get rugged, that will eventually slowly bleed out. And people hop from one project to another and continually take losses. And there's a lot of devastation that occurs in that process that needs to be, brought to attention so that there's some healing and some support in that process. So we're going to be focused on that. We're going to be bringing Evergreen in to have, for instance, a Telegram channel where people can look to talk to other folks about, what's happened in their lives and look for that support system, and hopefully find ways to prevent a lot of these calamities that are happening.
That's cool, man.
I'm gonna pause everyone there for just a quick second here and have a shout out here. What we do is we have a super chat shout out. Thank you very much for the super chat, Burn. Thank you guys for having us. BTCB community really appreciates it. Pedro and I are always very grateful of people that donate to the show. As I always say, we use the funds generated from super chats and things like that to bring you a better show, hopefully one without technical glitches in it. And we use it to promote, make things better, so you guys have a better time watching our show as well. And this has been the Pedro show for this morning here so far, or this afternoon, wherever you are. But I want to make sure everyone knows this is the show about the viewers. For those of you that are new to our show here, we're a daily talk show about crypto policy regulation. Generally on Mondays, we talk about meme coins. Tuesdays is Technical Tuesday when we go over charts for anyone that wants to ask about things. And then Wednesdays is Y'all Come. Tomorrow we happen to have another guest on from our partnership with Defi Dojo. And then on Fridays we have our Twitter Spaces or X Spaces with our Full Rant Friday, where we can talk about anything we want. Generally it's crypto related, but as I say, I keep Pedro in this little box above my head all week, and on Friday I let him out. And we interact with the community. And unlike other shows which are recorded and get millions of views because they're all bots, we're a live show, and we like to do live because we like to interact with you guys. And so thank you to everyone that's been bombing the comments here, all that, and that gets us the algorithm boost, and that gets guys like Brian here in front of more faces because our views will go up. But thank you to everyone for watching. Those of you watching on X too, really appreciate it. X is becoming a much larger platform now as we see crypto moving there a lot, largely over there for their VCs and things like that. But for all our prolific posters today, thank you very much. And Pedro, I'm going to ask Brian the next question here is.
Wait, one last thing.
Go ahead.
Quick. If you're listening to us also, because we have got a few views on X right now, please leave a comment, because when you guys leave a comment, it again feeds the algorithm that allows this show that we're having with BTCB to extend even further reach on X, and so that goes on most people live. So if you could also, if you're listening on X, please make a comment, hit the share button and or quote button, and send it out there.
And for those of you that don't know, on Twitter, on X, if you're looking at it in the feed, if you click the tweet itself, it brings up a comment section just like YouTube, in which you can talk and chat. And it should, if everything works right, merge with a great comment machine here.
Yes, absolutely. All right, go ahead. What was the next question?
The question is, and I've gotten this, I've got a DM from this also with somebody, BTC on base. Is it just a name, or is there what is the actual relationship with BTC?
Well, the project was deployed by some anonymous individual, and I don't know his original intentions. We do know that he dumped his bag, I think, 5 days into the project. So presumably he was just a money grab for him. But a community of leaders have come together to build what we now have is 8,400 people in Telegram, over 4,200 followers on Twitter. We're 60 days old, maybe 63 days old. And the narrative is to shine light on the necessity for a hard asset, looking at the scarcity, mirroring the scarcity of Bitcoin, and leveraging the scalability of Ethereum on base. You have an opportunity here where we have 15.63 million tokens, of which I can account for about 30% of that supply through our very long-term holders deep into the community that have been here from day one. We're continuing to expand that network, making these in real life partnerships and providing good for people that are needing the support with gambling addiction, substance abuse, and mental health ailments. It's apparent, I think, to anyone really doing the research that we're building something to better our society and to provide value on base. The current ecosystem, I think, on base is mostly meme coins. And I think that meme culture is important for really getting crypto out to the world, because these communities are real, and the people involved are real people, in meme culture, and they're bringing their friends and their family into it as well, and that gets people more clear on what crypto is about, I think, from a basic level, and then they could find other opportunities like in Bitcoin or Ethereum or the major chains, and then us sitting on base and driving an effort for social change, I think will and has already appealed to a large swath of these new crypto enthusiasts. So the relationship is, we're relatable to new crypto enthusiasts with the name, and we're substantial in the professionalism that we bring to this space. My professional background in traditional finance, Garrett, who's with us and will be on the board of our directors as our nonprofit foundation launches, is a professional trader, managed his own hedge fund before merging that into a family office where they manage hundreds of millions of dollars. Another board member of ours is with the Department of Defense, Destin, and works in medical IT. We've, like I said, just partnered with Evergreen Fund, and their network is extremely massive. I think I mentioned earlier on in the show, it could have just been this morning on Zach's Spaces, but the chairman of the board of Evergreen Fund is David Rhodes and has agreed to become our chairman of our board. Their CFO, Michael Silverman, is going to be our CFO for Bitcoin on Base Foundation. This really substantiates the validity of our project, and we're continually, daily bringing in new money to the space. And that's what it's about, is building and onboarding the world on chain.
So you're telling me you have a crypto project here that has an actual structure and a board of directors and a corporate structure that mirrors actual entrepreneurial companies getting started, looking for mentors, getting people on their board with experience and that can provide good advice, and not only that, but connections. And this is not the usual guest we have on this show, I must say, Brian. The usual guest. I take that back. We do have some projects that have some VC funding and things like that, but they're more real world things anyway that are dipping their toes into crypto. And it's glad to see that we'll call it a digital assets company, is operating in the correct way. That warms my heart here to have, we do a good show here. We try to bring good people here. And then you're coming on telling us you're a real company. And so that's good news. That's good news for crypto, to bringing the standard up for all of us. As they say, the rising tide lifts all boats. I don't know about you, but let me ask this question. In setting all of this up and taking it from what the original guy left you and bringing it into something real, did you find any resistance from people saying, like 4 years ago, there's a lot of resistance from people. Oh, I don't know if I want to get in that. And now the times have changed a little bit. What has been the reception of people when you approach them saying, hey, we're looking for board members, mentors, or, networking partners, that type of stuff?
Our project has attracted so much talent from day one. I mentioned a few of the folks. Michelle Clark, who's with one of the largest banks in the United States, is on our core team. She also developed Women on Base, which is a new project which has a group of ladies with different base projects, like Boomer, and I can't actually think of the other projects currently. We're building out this on-chain summit thing, and there's about a dozen different projects on base that'll be part of that. So I know that the ladies are from some of those projects specifically, but there's been some resistance, I will say, from a few community members along the way when they see this community project, crypto project, that they will want to just have continue as just that. Really kind of, I would say, I don't know what you call that kind of focus, or that need for staying out of the corporate sphere. But they didn't.
Anti-establishment.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Anti-establishment. Staying away from the IRS is what I call it.
They drifted, they went into other projects, and I'm totally happy with that. It's the consensus of the community that's important, and the general consensus is all on board with what we're doing. I have this vision, and I collaborate with a handful of core team members in expanding that vision, and then we relay the opportunities to our general community, and they are all on board. And that's proven by the floor that we've set in our market cap. If people didn't like it, they vote with their money. They could simply sell and walk away. And anyone who's not happy with what we're doing, find another project.
God knows there's plenty of them out there, but most of them are terrible. As we all know, 99% of all digital asset projects never have any intention of making any money. They have intentions of only filling the dev's pocket for 5 days and then leaving their community high and dry. Oh wait,
it's the exact what we're trying to pay attention to, right? It's there's that theft that's occurring, but the other side of it are the people that are injured by it, and the injury stems from a gambling addiction because they see the opportunity, they see the chart pump, and they're just like fiending for that gain. And in a lot of instances, it's to recoup the losses they had on the previous project that they got wrecked on. So we need to bring attention to this. It's not just there's a bunch of crypto scams out there that we need to be weary of. There's a lot of pain that's endured by that scenario that it needs to be healed and provide support for. And that's where we're going to be.
Well, that's why horse
focused.
racing tracks have more than one race. They have them on so they can keep that addiction for people to keep staying on and betting. Oh, I'll just double down and I'll win in the next race. I'll double down in the next race. And next thing you know, their car is out at Jesus's used car lot here, getting sold to pay off the gambling debt.
I myself, get influenced by all the opportunity, right? And was involved in a few quote unquote alpha chats. And 3 days ago, when I was able to solidify this partnership with fiscal sponsorship by Evergreen and sort of galvanize this direction we're taking now of providing this awareness around gambling addiction, it just made so much sense for me. Well, I woke up at 4 a.m. feeling like anxious, like, wait, maybe I'm not aligned with my integrity. I'm going down this path, but I still have these alpha chats that I see pings. This token. I just deleted everything. I had a few remaining little investments and this or that, sold everything. I'm just in Bitcoin on base, and I have my OG Bitcoin holdings, which is never going to be sold. This will never be sold either. We're going to create an infrastructure around this new economy, this ecosystem in Bitcoin on base, where similar to how all of these other assets operate and how wealthy people maintain wealth, you'll be able to have facilities for, leverage on your massive gain in the future, where you don't have to sell your tokens for that small tranche of cash you might need.
Well, good luck. Pedro, I've got one thing to do here real quick with Mrs. Striking. Right. So I'm gonna be off for 2 minutes. So take it away.
All right. So let's go ahead and jump into the charts here and just your thoughts on just the traditional markets and stuff like that right now. Typically, it's just if anybody wants me to do any charting for them, it's typically part of the show because we have a lot of guys different base. If you guys want me to check out some projects out there, kind of go over potentially where the market will most likely move. Again, this is for legal reasons, I have to sit there and say that this is not financial advice, right? This is all educational and social purposes only. But typically, we do see the market move in the directions. We actually, I forget what my statistical analysis percentage is, but it's somewhere in the 70s. So percent-wise accuracy. And we've called major movements in BTC as well as many other, like as you can see. And I don't move my lines here. They all stay the same. Once you see me put them in, they stay in. So these are typically where the market moves. So just kind of ask you kind of a couple of quick questions, like where do you think the market's going to move? Obviously, you're definitely pro crypto, and as well as pro BTC. But also would love to know just your thoughts on, let's say, Ethereum. Where do you think price predictions? Again, I'm not going to hold you to this. You're not necessarily a technical analysis guy, but yeah, I think you do have thoughts on price movements in the market. Where do you think maybe we could see ETH over the next couple months, price wise?
I wouldn't want to make a price prediction specifically related to Ethereum or really any in general There's so many different factors that could come by way of unforeseen circumstances, I think, but it's pretty clear, at least from our current status, that with the advent of the Ethereum ETF, you have new institutional money that's looking at the product from a different vantage point. There's been a lot of uncertainty for so much time as to whether or not this can be deemed as an unregistered security. It now being solidified as a commodity, which is the requirement to merge into this ETF product. The ETF itself is a security, but you've got now this. It's no longer this fear of you're going to have your asset be rug pulled later by a regulator. You can't really go back on what they've structured now. There's not going to be an instance, in other words, where the Ethereum ETF is no longer a product. It's ingrained in the financial system now, and this has taken a completely
it's literally
different
a commodity, is what you're saying.
Right. It is irrevocably deemed as now a commodity by the SEC by way of the product launch in the ETF.
Yes.
With that, you have the sort of political atmosphere around it completely changing. The narrative where, there's so much of a voting public percentage that are crypto enthusiasts that to, put additional restraints on them at this stage in, an election year is going to be devastating for either party. So you can see now that everyone is really merging around it, wanting to have a different conversation, wanting to bring in the crypto industry so that the political parties can remain viable and receive those votes from what's, I think 10 million people in the United States.
Yeah.
I think
and this is the key point, is that a majority of them are swing states. Like it's at a point now, whereas if you stay silent on crypto and if you're not pro crypto, like, I talked with our co-host, Tom, and I said, listen, man, like once I said the Democrats have to switch their view on this or they're not going to get elected in many areas. I mean, there's no way that the sitting president of the United States, and if he would have ran with the same position that he had back 4 years ago today, and it being his first time running, right? There's no way he would be elected, because the swing states are the ones who dictate who's going to be president. And the primary voting issue is crypto for them. I mean, that's what causes them to swing. And those swing people within those swing states, the swing issue is literally crypto. So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I agree with you. And I think for some people, it could even be a single issue voting scenario for them. A lot of people are tuned out to all of the other aspects of, why vote left or right. I like to, personally keep politics completely out of my community discussion. I'm here in your community and having a discussion with you to talk really generally about the purpose of or
Ethereum,
the direction of where crypto is prevailing now, and it's institutionally, it's nation state adoption, and from a political sense, it must all be thus accepted. Otherwise, you're gonna lose. Whoever you are.
Yeah, and that singular issue is really what's kind of, just the fact free when Trump simply came out and said, and listen, we talk about pros and cons on both ends for right and left. We're more libertarians than anything. We like a small government and let us have freedom here, right? Like, let freedom reign. It's really how we see the world. So it's one of those interesting things. I think one of the most important things, and I just want to highlight this part, is the commoditization. It's almost like TriFi sitting there saying, look, we got to figure out a way to get crypto into our world, because there is no shelf for it to sit on. So one of the ways that they're doing it is literally, let's commoditize the the industry, and when I mean commodity, I literally mean making it into an actual commodity. And in that, you can then commoditize it in a sense where they can now put it into an ETF, or in a way that you allow it where you can put real corporate money, real finance money to develop it. In that same sense, and I want to use ETH here because ETH right now is currently and right now also, like on Bloomberg, I listen to every day, they're talking about a SOL ETF, a Matic ETF, right? Like these are the things now coming down the road, because all the projects that are being built, all the technology that is being built on these blockchains, it's it literally is like a railway, right? This is like a railway in which things are being built. That's a long question, simply to ask you this, and forgive me for it. What are your thoughts on what could take this down? What could stop this movement from actually happening?
Nothing.
Just nothing.
Not possible at this point. I mean, Bitcoin is inevitable. Bitcoin is forever, and everything wealth-wise in the world will roll into Bitcoin. I think all assets will be valued in Bitcoin in the future, not USD. What is imploding is the existing financial industry structure, fractional reserve banking system. It's all debt-based. If you can understand how money is created, it's created out of debt. There isn't actually enough money in circulation to pay off all the debt that exists. It's destined for failure, and the only way to save it or preserve any sort of power structure is incorporating Bitcoin as a reserve asset, so that you can roll in your broken system into something that has value and will be forever. So there's no way to stop crypto at all anymore.
Interesting. Tom, what are your thoughts? Because I know we've had many discussions here about a failing dollar and this idea of the economy kind of falling apart. Because I know you have strong feelings about this as well.
I do. It's not that they're strong feelings; it's that they're practical feelings. And that I agree with pretty much every economist in the world right now, and everyone except the voting politicians and the House of Representatives, that there's too much money being printed and too much debt being taken on by the United States government. And I agree with the concept that some debt is good. You have to be able to utilize that when necessary. And it drives a huge part of the Wall Street is the whole debt markets and that type of stuff. I get that. But we've printed too much money, and we need to stop devaluing our currency. When you look at the S&P 500's growth, and it's like, wow, it's so great. My stockbroker's a genius. It's gone up all these years. And then when you adjust it for inflation, he's not so much a genius anymore, or she, or they, or whomever. And so, but one of the things that we need to get over the concept of is that the failing dollar is an actual problem right now in the short term. For one thing, most of the world's transactions on a transactional basis are in the US dollar. And in every country of the world where it's not the number one transacted unit, which is most of them, it's the number two. Like, for a good example is in the United Kingdom, the pound is the number one transaction. Number two is the dollar. And in all of Africa, all of South America, the transactions are all in US dollars. And then the secondary currency is their own currency. And that's even with the advent of BRICS. We can talk BRICS all you want, and how they're pumping it up. Yeah, the petrodollar contract is over with the Saudis. All that is great. Ooh, yeah, we're really going. The dollar's actually getting stronger against all those currencies because those BRICS people don't trust their own people, never mind other governments. So they're still relying on the dollar, and every financial institution on the planet has access to as many dollars as they want, almost immediately and without risk. And so until that goes away, you're still going to see government, not just the United States government, but all financial institutions around the world supporting the U.S. dollar. So I don't think, it's my personal opinion that our broken fractional banking system while a massive
That's
problem. It obviously needs to be limited and reined in a little bit here, especially in the derivatives markets. It's still got a lot of time to do that. But the good news is that Bitcoin has time. It has a lot of time in it, and it has the ability to wait it out. It's not people sitting there getting old. Bitcoin's just code running every day, 24 hours a day, no days off, just keeps running, keeps going. And so Bitcoin's got all the time in the world. And so when the time is right, I agree with our guest here in saying that eventually things will be valued in Bitcoin, or at least in USDT, or that's linked to Bitcoin or things like that. A great example is Argentina. They overnight, they just said, they got a new president, and they said, that's it. This leaning towards the Chinese, this leaning towards this way and this, and corruption, just spending like crazy is done. We're going to change it. We're going to pair with the dollar. We're going to liberalize crypto. And almost immediately, everybody switched their currency holdings where they're allowed to officially into USDT. It just happened overnight. And we saw a big boom in Tether, and also Tether buying U.S. Treasuries at the time. So while the U.S. dollar is having its issues, the unfortunate part on that is it's getting stronger, and more people are accepting it around the world as their default currency. So it's kind of the world currency by choice.
I agree.
But like I said, there's the time quotient here, and the time quotient is that we don't know what 50 years from now is. We could get an even larger lunatic in the White House. We could get, a lunatic in another foreign government that goes and invades his neighbors, and then keeps doing it, and suddenly you have, 40 years of war. That changes all types of things too. But as they say, Bitcoin just keeps going and going and going and going. Just like this show, Pedro, it just keeps going and going and going.
And if I could just clarify, guys, a little bit on my point, I don't see the U.S. dollar, completely failing to the extent that it's no longer the world reserve currency. I think that the existing system and how they create the dollar through debt will be completely changed by utilizing Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. This way, by parking funds in it and growing that market cap, the value of the USD is no longer a function of whether or not they sell more bonds to fuel that. It's fueled by just the growth of Bitcoin, the prevalence of it, and the nation state adoption, which will occur in a dramatic effect exponentially once US adopts it in that way. So then everybody's doing the exact same thing. Of course, US will have the biggest substantial portion of it if they're strategic in how they implement this process. So fractional reserve banking system is what I see failing, and it'll just phase out.
That's interesting. So you're saying more, so basically the idea of debt that causes economic growth, it's going to be substantiated by a real asset underneath it to hold its value. So it actually, if we do have free fall ideally the value of Bitcoin will substantiate the US dollar.
That's right. I mean, it's a hard asset. It's a sound money. People, as they become more sophisticated with the advent of the internet and able to have access to the information, are realizing that what we've created is manipulative, and it's just built to extract value from the world, to extract value from the public through banking fees, merchant fees, foreign exchange fees. The list goes on and on and on and on, and then taxation upon taxation. With Bitcoin as your wealth holding, map this out. There is no taxation until you sell. That's the taxable event.
Yeah.
You can build wealth in Bitcoin different than you can in real estate, for instance, where you have an annual tax on your real estate. And the standard by which people build their wealth currently through the American dream is owning a home. Well, do you really own it if you have to pay taxes on its existence on the land that you're basically renting by the government, from the government? With Bitcoin, you don't have that. There is no tax unless you sell. And wealthy people do not sell their assets for need for capital, they leverage them. There's no tax on proceeds from leverage. So there's going to be this wake up.
Let's clarify that. When you say, and this is I'll clarify this, but also let's talk about the corporate real estate issue happening here in America down the road, or the falling of a free fall of it. So you're saying that you leverage your assets, which means and let's just break that down to layman terms. You take a loan against your assets, so you don't pay taxes on loans. Is that correct? How I'm hearing that? Is that what you mean?
Loan proceeds are not taxable. That's right.
There you go. Okay, so
right, that's how rich people get richer, Pedro.
Yes, I understand.
They use other people's money.
Listen, there's nothing like what is it? Other people's time and other people's money, right? That's how you get wealthy. And there's nothing wrong with it. That's how literally America's built. But it's also important to understand that you're circumventing one system to create another system. But this is important to understand. The other system, unless you're wealthy already, it's very hard to create wealth because you're under the heavy hand of the taxman, the government. Whereas in the system that we currently have right now, if we switch things over to Bitcoin, right? You can take, as the increase of Bitcoin happens, you are no longer under the taxman hand, but you can actually let that grow by saying, hey, I've got $100,000 in Bitcoin. Let me take a $20,000 loan against this. Correct?
That's right. It's, if you're in a position where you own, $1 million property, a home, and you want to do a home remodel, you don't sell the house to do the remodel, or if you want to buy a car for your kid, you sell the asset to do the thing. You take out a home equity line of credit, and this would be a very similar scenario. And that infrastructure is already being built. Of course, there was in our last cycle a ton of incorrect ways of doing that with like BlockFi and the way that they moved that money and commingled funds to the point where their whole thing got
Celsius.
As well as SBF, right?
Well, that was where they moved money.
Right.
So now you have the largest institutions in the world that are parking money as a store of value, as a safe haven asset in Bitcoin. And that's going to create a completely different, more transparent, more functional lending infrastructure so that folks can have that access in safety.
Great. Okay. Whereas only the rich only have that in a sense.
Well, they just had the best access to it. Right.
That's what I'm trying to say, is that
people with credit get better credit and get more money.
Right. Well, this is interesting because, I think currently in the United States, it's a little difficult for the standard consumer to get leverage on Bitcoin. They've actually currently eliminated a lot of those products. Like there was a decentralized one called HODL that no longer allows for US-based individuals to garner access to that kind of leverage. Some other items like Lendin, which is a really good product. They're I think based out of Canada, but no longer offers to the U.S. public. I think a lot of that will change as soon as some of the regulatory clarity comes into play through, basically regulations that need to be implemented. Right now, there isn't any. So because of that gray area that exists, the financiers have just pulled out for their own personal protection and protecting, I think, the consumer until there is that clarity. Once that's in play, people will have that access, and that just gives you the opportunity to hold on to your HODL, your Bitcoin forever, and not sell for whatever capital you need for life, circumstances. We'll of course have a similar infrastructure built out on Base, and I'm sure that that's already in play. Coinbase is always 10 steps ahead in what they're building. When you see it revealed in whichever partnerships or collaborations or back-end infrastructure they have built, it's kind of astounding. When they partnered with Stripe, and already have that integration.
Which is brilliant.
It's pretty miraculous, man. How quickly that did.
I'm sorry. I honestly thought that was brilliant. Finally, like, cause I remember trying to unload, right? And you had to go through all these crazies. And there's simply as simple as using Stripe, dude, they basically said, all right, we have to use Swift somehow, some way, right? So let's use Stripe, which is a roundabout way, even though you're not using Swift in a sense, but you are using Swift, right? In the sense, Stripe was a good intermedium that allowed you to go from TriFi to DeFi and to go into Base, right? Which then allows you to get into DeFi and have fun there.
We all suffered from the MoonPay problem, or banks rejecting it as, it's fraud. And like, no, I just initiated it. It's not fraud. Well, we don't like doing business with them. Well, why? Because somebody told us that it was bad.
Yep.
And you're like, but it's not. It's just trying to move money from one place to the other. That's what you guys do, right? We're a bank. We just take your money. That's all we do.
Pretty much.
Well, Coinbase is implementing, I think, very soon here, the ability for you to access your assets on your Coinbase exchange account and merge that directly through to the decentralized platform to start, buying things like Bitcoin on Base. I'm not sure how far along that process is and which tokens will be, an instantaneous buy option for, but I'm sure we'll be at the top of the list as soon as it's rolled out.
It's real interesting. Real interesting. We'll see what happens with that, because that's gonna kind of change some metrics on how you kind of get in and out. Right now, we're going over the FOMC here. I'm kind of interested to see what's going to happen with interest rates and what that's going to look like. I thought it was supposed to be at 2 o'clock here, so that's kind of what is going on here. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is, like, you're real, and this is kind of a closing statement for you, right? Or for us, because we've kind of already been almost at this for about an hour plus. My question is, so your background is, real estate. And it sounds like it was corporate real estate, correct? Or am I misunderstanding that?
So I was in the business for 20 years. I started out in residential finance and moved into commercial finance to the extent that we finance developers to build residential properties in most instances, but they were business loans, and that's why the portfolio is so large.
Okay. So right now, currently, we're seeing a displacement of the traditional way of doing business with, companies going out and renting spaces, and they're more or less kind of doing it remotely, right? And if you do need to meet, right, you meet at a Starbucks or a Panera Bread, right, where you all kind of talk and go over stuff and, maybe do like a weekly report. But a lot of that's being done more remotely than anything. And so we're seeing a lot of corporate real estate kind of fall in on itself, which is now starting to have a systemic issue into,
well, in Chicago, they're converting them all to residences and spending a lot of money doing that, and they're selling quickly too. It's really strange.
So this is the thing that I said there. So what are your thoughts currently right now with the current interest rates that's happening being so high? Do you think that it's got to drop somehow, or do you think that that Powell is going to keep the market stagnant, or if not raise it, so that you could actually have more people buying that real estate issue that we're seeing? And you nailed it on a point, right? We talked about this, Tom. Like, they've got to do something with them, because right now they're negative assets. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that lowering the rate at this stage is required for a few different reasons. The political landscape, being this close to the election, is going to draw, I think, for these folks some additional votes, and some people want to keep their jobs. So for that reason alone, I think there'll be some movement. The market, I think, needs it as well to have a more sustainable path to growing the economy. The high rates make it, implausible for so many people to get into any type of product for financing right now. And of course, the ripple effect that you're talking about in the commercial real estate space from those loans coming due with the higher rate that's no longer affordable, with the property values dropping because there's vacancies, it's unsustainable in its current path. So they have to do something. You're right.
Based off the debt system that we're currently in, we're talking it's an implosion because a lot of those have also been turned into just products in which they can be traded against. And so commercial real estate being one of the primary foundations of most long-term traditional products in which people are looking for some type of alpha or some type of delta it's throwing things off, I think, in a sense. So they've got to figure out a way to bring in some type of cash to balance their portfolio, because if we keep going the way we are, they've got to figure out a way to allow there to be a cash system without some long-term or even not even long-term, just any like short-term catastrophe that we're currently in that's not being talked about. You know what I'm saying? Especially through treasuries and how that's all working out. Are you familiar with the like bear steepening versus bull steepening situation currently right now that's happening? And
I'm not.
Okay, never mind.
I actually didn't quite hear what you said, but say it again.
Are you familiar with like the bull steepening that's happening between the yields? Or
I don't follow that side of the market much. No.
Okay. Yeah, it's all good. It doesn't matter.
Jesus says the commercial real estate in San Francisco they want to make them residential also. Now they need more housing, that's for sure. I mean, if the governments
100%.
They're not letting people build enough houses because of regulation and zoning laws and all that type of stuff. So if you can convert commercial into residences, go for it.
It makes sense. I mean, no one's buying the commercial space because no one has the employees that want to show up to the office. Why not make use of the property? Give it some value.
Ironic if you worked for a company that said, okay, you can go home and work remote, and then so many people worked remote, they ended their lease, then they converted the building to residential, and you're like, hey, honey, let's go get a unit in that building. You end up working in the same spot.
Oh, that's
well. Ironically, where I sit here, I split my time between a studio here in Chicago and one in Ottawa, Ontario. And here I can look out and see the train that goes to downtown Chicago from the stop right outside. And it right there it is. And for a while, there were very few people getting on the train in the morning, post-COVID type thing. Before COVID, it was just a swarm every morning, and then it went away. And now it's back. It's a swarm in the morning, and the train people are reporting that it's not up to pre-COVID times yet, but it's getting close again. So even though Chicago is suffering, I think they've got like a 30% vacancy rate downtown now or something absolutely crazy. There's still a lot of people going there. They're taking public transit and going down, and because they got those big mortgages they got to pay, so they got to work and they got to go. Anyway, we're getting the long in the tooth here, Pedro and Brian.
Yes, sir.
As they said, we've been on the air for a while.
Mr. Johnson. Sorry,
but this is typical for us, though. We get on a good topic and we go at length, even though the viewership drops off after a while.
Always drops off, man. But we're talking good information, I feel like,
right? Especially when we get into policy and economics and stuff like that. The degens suddenly disappear on us. But we got loyal Jesus here, keeping the comment section going and all that type of stuff. But Brian, I wanted to thank you for joining our show here today. This was a little bit different show where we focused pretty much on one guest the entire show, but good commentary. I really appreciate it. Good knowledge. Good to learn about your project, Bitcoin on Base, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you, Pedro, for scaring him up out of Zach's room and other places to talk about it. And for those of you that don't know,
final words.
We are Zach Humphreys and I and Pedro are hosting a live stream from the ETH Toronto Blockchain Futurist Conference in August here, August 13th and 14th, or 14th and 15th. I can't remember what it is. Anyway, there's links to it all over the place. And we'll be broadcasting live from the show every day. And we'll bring in good guests, speakers at the show. I'm sending Pedro out to go find good people to talk to. And we'll be doing our show. We'll also be having influencers, I should say KOLs, key opinion leaders. Now we're not allowed to be called influencers. We'll have Austin Hilton there too, along with Oscar Ramos and a couple other guys talking shop, and hopefully doing a little ESPN football day style commentary on what's going on in crypto. So stay tuned for that. So for those of you new people that are watching this, click the follow link here and say get notified so that when we do go live during the show, you'll get all the latest information.
Also sponsors real quick. Let's talk about it. And also let's give Brian kind of the final wrap up. Just let people know about how they can get a good deal for BitFi.
Well, we can't go without schlepping our sponsors. Our show exchange partner is BitFi, and I'm having a little trouble with the graphics right now, so I'm not going to bring them up. BitFi.com. There's a link in the bottom. If you want a new exchange that works in the U.S. and in Canada, has no KYC until certain limits are met, and is very easy to use. I've been using them all week. I've met their leaders of their group, and they're giving the viewers of DYOR Media some free cash monies to sign up and trade with them. Find the link for bitfi.com in our body here. That's as much as they get today, Pedro.
All right, sounds good. Ryan, it's been a pleasure, man. If you could just let people know where they can find you, where you're at, where you reside typically, and let us know kind of like, where what's a quick next thing you guys are going to be doing.
Yeah, thank you for having us, for having me. You've got, it looks like, our Telegram link in the YouTube description here. Thank you for that. We also have our Telegram link that's up there in the description of Telegram. I mentioned before, we have 8,400 members already in Telegram. Our community is growing strong. We'd love to have folks who listen to this today join us. We're basically, as we discussed earlier, moving this community-driven project into an actual nonprofit organization. We're going to be, serving folks that are, in need of support for gambling addiction. We're leveraging the network of Evergreen Fund, who you can see in our Twitter feed, reference to our collaboration with them, and building out the network of support for people. And our next step today, we're actually arriving at Basecamp, this inaugural event from Coinbase, where builders on Base are joining forces to collaborate, to offer each other feedback. The CEO of Coinbase will be there, Brian Armstrong. The lead developer, builder of Base, Jesse Polak, will be there speaking, and even Vitalik will be, I think, speaking virtually. So it's a major event, and I have our team there representing and working on building new partnerships, and all exciting stuff. Every day we have something new come up, and just follow us on Twitter and Telegram to keep up to date.
Thanks.
Dara from Madrid, thanks for joining us. Late, but
I was just going to say, I'm also on the Crypto Breakfast Club with Zach Humphreys almost every day, every other day. I try to get up there and share updates live with people. And that's where I met you guys. So shout out to Zach and what he's doing at Crypto Breakfast Club.
Right. Shout it out, dude. Because that dude, they're kind of legit, right? Like him and Zach Zach
Subway?
Zach from Subway. Yeah.
XPO.
Yep. Those guys are fun. They're real fun. They're real cool guys. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming. Appreciate you. Well, I'll definitely be bothering you in about maybe 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month or so, just to find out what's going on with BTCB, and have you come back on if you don't mind.
I'd love that. Thank you. You guys are great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Later.
I don't
So
know.
my friend,
Thanks, Brian. I really, the graphics are a little bit slow here, but anyway, thanks for joining the show. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks a lot.
later.
All right, it's supposed to be clicking off there, but there we go.
So, hey, how you doing today?
Right.
We're having issues.
There we go.
All right.
Well, that's a good
So,
show, Pedro. A lot of good info from Brian there. I'm glad he donated so much of his valuable time to us for that. Had a good discussion.
It's real interesting, man. I was expecting this market to get crazy because of what's happening with the Fed and everything that's happening. So I was hoping to, really talk about what's happening, and really nothing, bro. Nothing.
Yeah,
Right now,
nothing's
the
going on. Bitcoin's just kind of chilling.
Yeah. Dollar kind of in between. I didn't, I'm expecting some stuff to happen, and nothing is. I'm just like, go figure, man. Like, sometimes just the way it rolls. You just sit there and go, okay, that's how it is. We had this huge push up today, and I was expecting us to see a sell off and come back down to here, but nothing, man. Nada.
I can't pull your chart back up. My computer's going to turn to smoke.
I got it. It's all right. It's all right. But yeah, it's a good show today. It was a real good show. And what do you have planned for tomorrow? Are we still coming on tomorrow?
Yeah, we've got it. We've got a guest tomorrow. We've got the guys from there's going to be a schedule conflict, I can tell. The guy says he's traveling tomorrow, and I have a feeling that he doesn't understand this is a live show. Anyway, we're likely going to have a guest on tomorrow. I'll bring you more information about them later. Anyway, Pedro, I do have to run. Got stuff to do.
All right, my friend. It was a pleasure.
Let's get the end of the show music going here. Getting the kick tracks going.
There we go. Oh yeah.
You're hearing the Manila kick tracks, everyone. You know what that means. It's time for us to go. It's either time for us to start or time for us to go. But it's time for us to go. And as I always say, on behalf of Pedro Garcia and my name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking, here in the digital media world. So glad to have hosted another episode of DYOR Live. Our big thanks to Brian Johnson with Bitcoin on Base. Good stuff to come with that project for sure. Make sure you go in the body, click the links, find their project, and join their community. Anyway, Pedro, we'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, everyone, be there.